There we go. Very good. So, well, why don't we get started? Welcome to this Zoom meeting that I've been having with congregations this year, and appreciate that you could find the time tonight to be with me. If you don't know who I am, uh, my name is Chris Wisher, and I've been serving as district president now for this is my 13th year since 2009 is when I was elected. And by the way, this will be my last term of office. I do plan to retire in September 1st, 2022. We don't have term limits in the Eastern District. I can keep serving if I desire, but it's I think it's time. I kind of get that sense sometimes it's just time, and my time is now. So, but it's been a real joy and pleasure serving. With us tonight, also from the district office, is Lyle Hegemeyer. Lyle, you want to say hello?
Good evening, everybody.
There we go.
Hello.
Lyle, while I have you, why don't you tell the folks where you serve in addition to the Eastern District and a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I serve half-time with the Eastern District and half-time with Faith Lutheran Church in Rochester. I live in Rochester, have been here for 15 years, and served previously congregations primarily, all exclusively in the Midwest, in Minnesota, Kansas, and in Illinois.
Okay, great. And it's been really a very, very good arrangement that we have with Faith and Penfield. So, been very fortunate to have Lyle and his connections helping us out at the district. So, I know we were introducing each other and talking a little bit at the beginning. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. So, let me just. So, if you can hear me, if you can, yeah, raise your hand and hold it up. I just want to make sure. And if there isn't a hand up, then I know we have a problem. We have this gentleman right here. Um, he's muted. Maybe I can unmute. We may have a little bit of a problem here. Oops, sorry. He may be. Okay. Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so you can hear me. Thanks, everybody. Put your hands down. I was just checking to make sure everybody can hear me, and I can hear you as well. Normally, when I have a large group, this isn't a large group, but when I have a large group of 20 plus, I would mute everyone so that to avoid all that background noise, which is going to happen all the time. But it's a smaller group, and that's how we designed it. We want it to be small, so no need to mute you all. So you can talk anytime you wish, okay? One of my favorite pictures of the Eastern District, and if you take a look at this is a satellite view of our district on a clear night. And when was the last time it was entirely clear? I love this picture because it shows a lot. At the lower right, you can see the city of Philadelphia, how it just kind of sprawls out, which it does, almost halfway across the state. And then way to the left of that, the bottom left corner, that would be, of course, Pittsburgh. And again, a very large city that sprawls out to the north. If you go up straight from there, you'll come to a dark ink splotch, partially that's kind of jutting in from the left, and that would be Lake Erie. And above that is another dark splotch, kind of long, and that's Lake Ontario. You can see a bit of Toronto in the very top left corner, just a little bit there coming in. But what you can see on Lake Erie, of course, is Buffalo and Niagara Falls. And if you go to the right, that would be Rochester, where Lyle is. And you go a little further right, there's two more blotches of light. That would be Syracuse. And finally, way to the right is Utica. And everything else is in between. State College is, I believe, would be, I think this here is like Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, and places like Pittston through here. State College may be like right around here someplace, I believe.
Mhm. Yep.
Oh, for our State College people. So that's a kind of a fun picture for tonight. So let's begin with prayer. So please join with me. Almighty and merciful God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we thank you for calling us in Christ Jesus to be your people, to bear your name, and to proclaim your good news of salvation to our communities and world. Bless our congregations to be islands of hope and courage in a sea of despair. Lift our hearts with the joy of the Spirit and richly flood your light of truth in our hearts and minds. We ask this in the blessed name of Jesus our Lord. Amen. So we did a little bit of intro before I started talking, but I'd like to kind of go around again. So if you would, I'm going to call out your name that appears on my screen. So just give us your name, full name, the church you're from, and if you hold an office or serving in an office for the church, maybe you can tell us that too. And anything else you'd like that would be of interest to us. So we'll start with Mark. Is Mark and Dick? But let's start with Mark.
Okay, I'm from Grace Lutheran Church in Niagara Falls. I'm the vice president and chair of the board of elders.
Okay, thank you. And Dick?
Dick Crawford, Grace in Niagara Falls. I'm the president of the council and a member of the elders.
Okay, Mark. Very good. Very good. And on my screen below you is Rich Diedenberger.
Yes, I'm from Grace Lutheran, another Grace. This one is Hop Bottom, Pennsylvania. I'm the president of the church council.
Good, very good. And Grace in Hop Bottom has a new pastor. Thank the Lord.
Yes, we do.
To your right would be Ray Vogel.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm Ray Vogel I'm chairman of the elders currently from Good Shepherd Lutheran in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. I've been on the board of elders off and on since the mid 80s. I've also served as a council president for 4 years and still involved and enjoying it.
Good. Marvelous. And you're in the call process too. That I know. He's looking for a pastor.
Yes, we are. Yep.
Sure. So
Second time around.
Second time. So Nola, we'll go to Nola.
Hello, I'm Nola Trost. I'm with Good Shepherd Lutheran in Canandaigua, New York. I am chair of the elders. I'm on vision team. I'm on church council, and I'm also on call committee as part of our search for an additional pastor to expand our pastoral people.
Good. And I sent you a new list, so you'll have more names coming to you in a day or two.
Got it. Thank you very much.
I know you're waiting. So, see, Dan Hagen.
Yeah, Dan Hagen. I'm with Good Shepherd Lutheran in State College, Pennsylvania. I'm the head elder.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Good to have you with us tonight, too. And let's see. I have Lindsay.
Lindsay Milbrath. I'm head elder here at Trinity Lutheran Church, Ithaca, New York. And various other roles I've played over the years to count.
Great. Good deal. And Jared.
Good evening. I'm Jared Pritz. I'm with Trinity Lutheran Church in Glen Savage, Pennsylvania, a small rural area about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. I currently hold the office of president for our congregation, and we are also in search of a pastor, and I'm on the call committee. Moving forward with that effort.
Yes, another one of my congregations that are calling. So
yes,
it's moving along. Actually, they're all seem to be moving along well. Doing a great job, all of your congregations. So, and I have S. Schultz or Schulze. I may be mispronouncing that. My apology.
No problem. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I don't think. Steve Schultz. I'm with Rich at Grace in Hop Bottom, Pennsylvania. and I'm an elder.
Okay, I'm sorry. You said your first name is Steve?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, you talk about how not to pronounce your name. My wife, as I mentioned, my wife had a knee replacement 2 days ago, and at the hospital, when we were there in the recovery, there was the nurse, and she asked me, "So, are you related to Mark Witcher in Orchard Park?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but that's not how we pronounce her name. It's Wisher." And the other part of the family calls it Witcher, so we don't know how to say it either. We just mix it up. Witcher. So thank you. So what I'm going to do tonight for the time we have together is kind of two parts, if you will. The first part is I'm turning to you to ask you questions and hear from you. And as we talk and as you share, Lyle is going to be taking notes for us. And what's going to happen with the four questions that we sent out to you, is that I'm going to compile these responses during January and write a report, and then share that report with the board of directors in February, and when appropriate and whatever it is appropriate, share that also with the district convention in June. And then finally, hand the report over to the new district president. So the idea is to give him also kind of a running start, a sense of what some of the concerns and strengths of our congregations are in the district, for his planning moving ahead. So that's kind of what's going to happen in the first part. The second part is just to hand to you, if you will, a bunch of resources that you might want to consider for your congregation, some starts along the way. In between the two, I'd like to just sort of pause and see if you have any other particular questions you want to raise tonight. And I'll have to be kind of brief in responding because I've got this other agenda. But it may be that you brought some questions for tonight as well. That happened at the end of our previous meeting like this, where there was a congregation that had questions, but he followed up with me afterward anyway, and so we took care of that, which you can always do. So, like I said, along with the invitation to tonight, you were also sent electronically a questionnaire, and I asked you to give some thought to that and maybe to share that with other people to hear from them as well. And even if you didn't have a chance to look at it, maybe just a response would be very, very helpful for us right now. So the first question that we had was, what is something that you have going well for you as a congregation? What's really kind of one of your strengths? And if you can pick out one thing that you're willing to share with the group tonight. So, yeah, with about 8 of you or so, it's going to be hard to see a hand raised. So you might, you might want to just kind of jump in. Anybody in
I
particular?
have to say, for our congregation in Canandaigua, our biggest strength is the fact that we pray. As laymen, many individuals are willing just to step up. We had called a pastor, and that was one of the things he commented on, is how surprised he was at the free flow and comfort level of lay people, all parishioners, leaders, whomever, to just jump in and pray at any given moment.
Mm-hmm. Worship services before dinner, Nola, those places, times?
Anytime, really. I shouldn't say anytime, not during service necessarily. But if a member had an issue going on, people were willing to pull other people in and pray. When we were having a dinner, there was an emergency with one of the family members. And someone just stepped up and said, we all need to bow our heads and pray. So they saw, that anybody was really comfortable with it.
Nice. Very good. Very good.
I'd
right.
like to say that our congregation was 2 years without a pastor, and it went through the COVID problems, and the congregation held together as members. Our finances were good throughout it, and we just we just did well in spite of the fact we had no pastor and we had COVID problems to deal with.
Interesting. So your congregation did well through COVID with the finances. Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good to hear, because I sometimes hear the opposite. Congregations really struggle, but none of our congregations closed because of that, which is great. Thanks, Rich. So 2 years. So it takes a little time to get that pastor. I'm sorry, I cut somebody off.
It's okay. I was just going to say, when COVID started, and actually before that even, we started doing online services to allow people who are at home to see the services and participate. We actually put the whole bulletin, online, so that the hymns and the whole rest of the service is all there for them to participate. And it really enabled our congregation to kind of stay together, even when we weren't together.
Yeah. We all learned to be tech savvy, didn't we?
Yeah.
I learned how to use Zoom. But that was no small feat, putting together a service. It really is a lot of work. Right? I mean, putting that on and making sure it works. Yeah, I heard so much about that. Are all of your congregations, do you all still have online services? Are you still doing that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
No,
I'm sorry, who said no?
Rich.
Okay, Rich. Okay.
Grace and hop on. We
This is
really,
Dan. This is
we really
Dan.
in the way of
We have the,
online services. We were only closed for a short time at the beginning of COVID, and we continue to have in church services.
Very good. Wow. Very good. Yeah, we've had a few churches that did that. So, Dan, did you want to say something?
yes, in State College, we had the live services, of course, an 8 o'clock service and a 10:30 service each Sunday. And since the beginning of COVID, the pastor has been doing a recorded service that is posted online on the church's website early Sunday morning. So those that still feel uncomfortable coming to a live service can get the service online. And that seems to be working very well.
Okay. All right, I'm going to move on. Oh, we have one more. Ray, go ahead.
Yes, in addition to our VBS and preschool being very successful, before COVID, we were doing 2 services with nothing online. And then when COVID hit, we started doing a blended service online. We live stream, and if you don't catch it on Sunday morning, you could see it after the fact. But it's been someone to mention about their offerings increasing, and we were surprised too that our offerings, money coming in, also increased during COVID. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But before COVID, we had a traditional service, and then we had a modern service. But now that the numbers of people coming into the church on Sundays, we decided to do a blended service, which seems to be going very well.
Marvelous. Interesting. At times of challenge also brought about some creativity from everybody. That's great. So let's go to the next question that we have right there. What is the biggest challenge to your congregation's effectiveness or future? What seems to be the biggest issue that's kind of slowing things down, or you just wish could kind of go away?
Our case, it's the aging congregation.
Yeah.
And lack of new members.
Yep.
Although we have got a few new members recently.
Okay.
Yeah, we experience the same thing, aging congregation, and how do we best attract younger families to come and worship with us?
Okay. Aging, getting young people. Ray, did you go ahead?
Yeah, we have the same issue. We have an issue of finding leaders. volunteers to do things, and it's the same people always doing the same work. And it's the same thing, getting the young people involved. It's mostly older members, and but we do have some young people. It's not that we don't have any, but we just some of the younger ones have just fallen away since COVID.
Yeah, and it's hard to find young people who want to commit for a long period of time to an organization or a position of service. Very difficult to do that.
Yeah, along those lines, we had some coming. We had the families and everything there, and they have fallen away. It's a combination of COVID plus not having a pastor. So I mean, I kind of view our biggest challenge in the future here is getting that pastor and getting the right man here to try to get those folks back, because we did have a pretty good cross section of generations, and right now they're still there. They're still out there. They just haven't been coming as regularly as they had. So I think if we get that pastor here and is able to reach out to them and strike up that relationship, we'll be better off for sure.
Well, you raise a good question for me, at least, Jared. How many of your congregations are back 100% where you were before COVID? Back 100%. Same attendance on a Sunday morning. Anybody? No, I don't see any. No.
Yeah.
That's across the board. Trying to regain.
With us losing the pastor there right in the middle of COVID, it's hard for us to really attribute. Is it how much do you attribute to COVID? How much of it do you attribute to not having a pastor? And so we're just kind of looking forward to normalizing with a new pastor to try to figure out where our new baseline is.
Yeah. Probably both would be my guess in your case. Yeah.
Well, I think another issue is that we've seen some, we'll say, borderline families that COVID, I think, gave people a reason to not go to church. And so we've lost some that were not as active. And I think that it's also we're seeing with some of the younger families that are not members, but they're interested. Like you mentioned, there's a certain lack of commitment or desire to really fully invest in membership.
Right.
And that's a struggle.
Yeah.
And I think and at the same time, I think that the longtime members rallied around each other if there were needs and things, but it's been a little harder to get people to reach out to maybe their unbelieving neighbors.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I think you're reflecting on a reality of where we're at now in our culture. Church is not popular. I mean, right? It just, particularly for the younger people, they just don't connect the way we connect. As a boomer, as I am, so a guy in his 60s, church is all about. I'm all about that. But younger people, they connect spiritually in other ways, and it's trying to figure that out. How do we as a church then serve them? Not easy. Are any of your churches doing? How are your congregations reaching out to the families that haven't returned? Have you any events, any initiatives?
Actually, for Canandaigua, because we have now started a campaign, we have invited several different people to participate in the campaign, including those who had not yet returned, and it brought them back. They came back not only to be a part of the campaign, but to lead portions of it. So it's really been a success in that regard.
Okay. And the campaign you're talking about is the LCEF campaign?
Correct. Yes,
Right.
a 3-year campaign.
Okay. Anyone else? Any ways? Go ahead.
Reaching out through the elders chains.
We really did not lose a lot of attendance during our vacancy, because we had 3 or 4 substitute pastors who came and did the services for us. 2 of them were from Malvern, Pastor Hoffmeister and Pastor Emberger, and Pastor Rickert did some service, and Pastor Worley from
Binghamton.
came also.
Mhm.
So, and the attendance was good when they were there, and especially if we had communion.
Mhm.
And we always did when we had a visiting pastor. So we didn't lose a lot due to the fact that we had a vacancy.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment?
I think for our church, from what I understand, it's a unique church, but our pastor's pretty well stretched. Even though not everybody's returned, he's stretched as far as he can be, which is the reason why we're looking for 1.5 pastors.
Okay. Oh, stretched in terms of his workload.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and in his 70s, that's probably a burden, isn't it?
Actually not, Chris. He's kind of revived. In some ways, it was a positive thing for him that he. I'm here someplace. I don't know where I am.
I don't think we know who you are.
I'm Bob Smith. I go to the same church as Nola,
Okay.
and I'm the president of that congregation. And I don't know why my video's not on, but it doesn't seem to be. Do you see me now?
I can see you. Yeah, but you
No.
can't see us. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see you now.
Okay.
What I was going to say was, Don, the biggest challenge to our congregation's future is the fact that we're trying to move forward and reach out to people at the same time as we're trying to help our present pastor survive everything so he can go into retirement. And it's an interesting combination of things. I've never quite participated in anything like it before. And it'll be interesting to see where we go and how it works.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Anyone else before I move on to the next question? All right, let's do that then. So if money was not an issue, in other words, the cost, whatever it might be, if there is a cost, what is the one change that would make all the difference for your congregation? This isn't a trick question. It's just, I think, a practical, down-to-earth question.
Well, at Trinity Lutheran, we have a small, like a half-day preschool and then an after-school program, which we've had for over 20 years. But in the last several years, we're having more troubles economically. COVID did not help at all. We had to shut the school down for a bit. And enrollment has really not picked up because there's still a lot of concerns by parents. So we're actually, this November voters meeting, we're actually going to have to once again, ask some hard questions about our preschool, after school. If money were not an object, I think we could do some things with that program to give it long-term viability despite, hiccups in enrollment. And then we have, potential universal pre-K, which is going to affect us again. So that's one burden that our congregation, who've been very supportive of the program, but under COVID, we had to swallow a large deficit just to keep that school going.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, with current enrollments and fear, I would say on the part of families, how viable we're going to be.
Ordinarily, is that school subsidized by the congregation?
Yeah, there's always a subsidy. We try to match basically teacher salaries with tuition fees. But other things like utilities and things like that, that's just absorbed by the general budget.
Mm-hmm.
But we're moving beyond that now because the enrollment just has not picked up.
Okay. Thanks, Lindsay. if money were not an object. Okay, Ray?
Yeah, we have several answers. Number one is if we had air conditioning, things would be a lot better, especially in summer, because we don't have air conditioning. And our restrooms, it's an old building. Our restrooms need remodeled desperately. That's on the physical end of it. But on the other end of it, we need to reassess and restructure and hire additional staff at some point in time. But we're just not there yet. We used to have additional staff, but we're just not back there where we used to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, Rich?
We need a new narthex on our church to make it a little bit more inviting when we come in at very dark and small narthex. And
Okay.
we've been working on this probably for 10 years and haven't done it.
Okay. Yeah. Something that's larger, inviting. Okay, Mark and Dick, I think I see Mark's hand up.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more in terms of the broader picture. Our congregation, like many others, is aging pretty drastic, and we're not seeing the influx of younger people. We have 2 schools locally, Lutheran schools locally, but there is no Lutheran high school. And keeping people, the young folks, in touch with their God and their religion on a daily basis seems like a higher priority than anything. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay. Good, nice variety of answers here. Appreciate that. Anyone
I'll
else?
go next. This is Dan. We have a director of campus ministry because Penn State's largest campus is just 2 miles away, but it's only one person. And if money was not an object, it would be nice to have 2 or maybe 3, because we've got 45,000 students 2 miles away from us. The one person cannot contact all 45,000 students and work with them.
Right.
So if we had more resources to devote to the college ministry, that would be very helpful to us.
Right. Yeah, valuable ministry, isn't it? I mean, and just the transition of those students over the years. Yeah.
Pastor?
Go ahead, Ray.
I have a question for Dan up at State College. This is Ray from Pittsburgh. We have several young people from our congregation that attend Penn State main campus, and we've told them, you got to try to go over to Good Shepherd and State College and attend, and they probably don't do it. Do you have any suggestions for us here in Pittsburgh, or how we could tell the kids to try to get over to your church?
Well, yeah, push that, but if we could also get their names and contact information, our DCM would contact them directly. And that's when one of the frustrations in recent years that we often don't know about the existence of LCMS students on the campus until they're juniors. And, we've lost so much time not being able to contact them. So if we can know directly information of students. One thing that the university has done in recent years that has been difficult for congregations is that they don't really allow us to know information about students on campus that have indicated a particular denominational preference. So we're missing that information now. So any way that we can get that directly from a home congregation would be very helpful.
Dan, you said that your church is about 2 miles away from the campus.
Right.
So for the kids that don't have transportation, is there any way to get them over there?
Yes, we transport students every Sunday.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So it seems to me that we need to communicate that to our congregations, Pastor Wisher, that this, I wasn't aware of, hey, just something as simple as let Good Shepherd and State College know, some contact information for the kids.
Mhm.
I'll make sure we do it here at Good Shepherd in Pittsburgh. But
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
it may be a good thing to share with everyone.
Yep, absolutely. Lyle, I think, is going to put that down for us. Take a look at that. And it's not only, of course, State College, right?
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dan.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, one.
I had a quick question for Dan. What do you, because we have Cornell University and I think at college, the biggest issue I think is transportation. If some students have cars, they'll give rides to other students, but we used to have a member who regularly went around and picked students up. That was many years ago. I'm curious, do you have like a network of members, or do you have like a van, or what do you use?
Yeah, we don't have a van. We just have members that are willing to go pick up students on Sunday morning. And what they'll do is try to get, pick up times scattered around town or on the campus, and then say we'll be there at, say, 10 in the morning, be ready to go, and pick them up and bring them. Then we also have lunches for students after the second service, usually 2 times a month. They're also invited to participate in activities on Thursday evening at the pastor's home. And then they have their own student group that meets on Wednesdays. So there are multiple opportunities if we can just get to know who these people are and contact them.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Thankfully, an issue I just want to mention real quickly. We've had, I forget the number of years, Pastor Foote would know, that we were part of a chaplaincy program that Cornell had, but Cornell has really become more onerous in the kind of things they demand now.
Mm-hmm.
So we, in fact, this year stopped our, official chaplaincy with Cornell, which is going to present some challenges of being sort of an invisible ministry because we don't have the resources now.
Right.
Anyway, that's something to retool.
Understood. Yeah, Pastor Foote shared some of that with me. And like you said, very onerous, very difficult to get around some of those things. So hopefully something's going to change along the way.
Yeah, Chris, I just wanted to point out also that students from Cornell came down to State College about 3 weeks ago for a retreat with our students.
Mm-hmm.
That went very well. Just a weekend retreat. And students came to our second service on Sunday, so we got to meet those students as well.
Okay. So I have one last question that I sent out to you. So again, your response would be really helpful. In a brief sentence or two, why does the Eastern District exist? What are some of your thoughts? What do you hear around your congregation? Why does the district exist?
Oh, it helps facilitate when you need to go out for a call.
Okay.
Other worship questions that we may have on our end. Just as be able to ask questions of you to try to help us move our congregation and their faith ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. Thank you.
I'd say the same thing about you. I don't know who we would have found the pastor candidates that we had to contact. We went through at least 6 groups of eligible pastors, some of which turned out not to be looking for a call, but eventually it worked, and we got Pastor Steve Geske from Ohio to become our new pastor, and without the Eastern District to help us with that, I'm not sure how we would have gone about finding our new pastor.
Yeah, I'm finding that on average, I'll be sending around 60 to 70 names to congregations that they go through over the period of time that Rich is talking. Well, you all know Trinity as well. and it takes every bit of 2 years. Lyle Hegemeyer, he's been through a couple of vacancies at his church. He's DCE. How long was it from Bill Flamin to who was after Bill then?
After Bill Flamin left, we were in a call process for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And then Tom Gunderman came. And then after Tom left, we were in a calling process for about 2.5 years, and now have Ben Braun.
Yep. A suburban church, right? Outside of Rochester. So whether you're suburban or rural, it really doesn't matter. You know, it's just the way it is now.
It
it's
takes
not
time.
Say that again?
I said it takes time, and
Takes time.
what we had to emphasize to each other on the search process as well as to the congregation is it does not pay to get in the hurry and get the wrong person.
Right. That's true. That's right.
I guess if we didn't have the Eastern District and we had to go to St. Louis looking for a pastor, that would have been really a tougher situation.
Yeah. Okay, so finding names for call lists and also answering some questions. I've heard some of those things. Any other thoughts about why does the Eastern District exist? I guess Bob Smith, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I've got a little different perspective because I served on the district board for a long time. And I know a lot of things that it does. And I found it interesting when I first started going to church in Canandaigua about 15 years ago. They didn't really have any contact with the Eastern District other than pastoral things. But what we forget is the district organizes circuits and pastoral training, teacher training. The district is involved in you're involved as in clerical, not supervision exactly, but clerical support. I've seen you do mediation when congregations are having trouble with pastors or when congregations are having trouble with each other. The district takes care of property issues if there are any. So having seen a lot of that, I know a lot of things that can happen in congregations that the district does or can help with. That unless you've been in that situation, you probably don't realize the district even does those things. But I think it does a lot of important things, and it's worth supporting. When you were doing the no money thing, if money were no object, I would apply that back to the district. If money was no object for the district, I'd love to see the district more actively involved in education, in missions. We used to have a regular mission person on your staff. At one time, we had a regular education person on the staff. To me, there's a whole bunch of staffing things that could happen at the district level that would be helpful to a lot of congregations. So I think for me, that's, our congregation, the money seems to be a stimulus to action as opposed to a prohibitor. I'm always surprised at how well we do with that. But at the district level, it's always been, what can we cut next? And it's unfortunate because the district can provide a whole lot of service. I don't know, Chris, do you still do things like provide training for new church treasurers and secretaries and that sort of thing? Or is that
No, we haven't done that in some time, but it's a matter, like for congregations, whether it's Canandaigua or not, it's really a matter of priorities at this point. And also realizing that the old model of doing things just doesn't really fit so much anymore. So missions is another question. I mean, you raised that one. I don't think missions from the top down really works anymore. You have to almost stimulate this from the grassroots through congregations that are working together in partnership. So there's just a lot of different strategies. Deploying workers or staff.
What you just saw happen when one person asked the other one about kids going to college. I think the district's role has changed, but I think it still is a clearinghouse role to help congregations get together to do things mutually and to support each other. So I think you have a role there.
Bob.
Right. I don't know what I heard, but
Bob.
Okay. So I'm going to move along. I hear somebody else talking, so that's okay. So I'm going to move along here. If unless you have any questions, I should stop and pause for a moment. Did anybody bring any questions for me tonight that needs to be answered at this point? And maybe not. I might have to say, hey, let's pick it up tomorrow. I'll call you back or something like that. Okay, hearing none. This is good. We're going to move right along. So, just going to throw resources your way. And these are kind of random. These are things that, if you will, I pull off my shelf or out of my file drawer that are always active and working that maybe presidents or church leaders aren't aware of. So here are some resources that you could be thinking about. If your congregation is ever thinking of doing some planning and some visioning, what can be happening that's kind of new to kind of bring some vitality to the church, new direction. I know, and I'm not fooling anybody. I know there are many resources out there at your disposal. It's so easy to go online and just do some searching. It's so easy to go to the church down the street that has something going on and asking them, where did you get your information? Who's leading you to do this? We're kind of interested. So there's all kinds of resources. I realize that. But we do have resources, and as a district president, you kind of accumulate these things over years. But here is one. If you're looking to do some planning, what are some of your goals over the next year or 3 years or 5 years, and how are you going to get there? These three pastors are available, and they said that they would help, given kind of an agreement. They don't work for the district. They're kind of freelancing. The three of them are retired. Arnold Decknatel was at Risen Christ in Rochester area. He also has a D-Min from Fuller Seminary in evangelism. So very interesting. Interesting man who's got a lot of good information to share. So he would be one. David Weeks is in the Pittsburgh area. Dave was at Calvary Murraysville before he retired, and did work on the staff of the district office. Really wise when it comes to planning and doing those things. Barry Carolinen is the third, and he is north of Pittsburgh, between Pittsburgh and Erie. But these men are all willing to travel. If your congregation is ever interested in contracting or working on an agreement with these men to come in, the district would help you with that. Just call us and we'll try to work something out to help defray some of the costs. And we're not talking a lot of money. You can go outside of the district. You can find some very excellent resources that are out there. I think Canandaigua, you have one in LCEF. You've got a great leadership there. So you can go that route, certainly. But here are three men who are available to you. So nothing more. I'm just going to move along unless you have a question, okay? Another really good resource is free. That is the Congregation Treasurer's Manual, which is a monster of a 3-ring binder. There's just a lot of information packed in this, and it's not just for treasurer's information. The manual contains how to hold a meeting or how to have better meetings and how to involve people and how to structure your congregation and what could some of your boards be doing in a traditional setup. These kind of things are in this manual. It is free on the LCMS website. All you need to do is go to www.lcms.org and you'll get to the website. And then in the area there's an area of find, the search for find, just on that place, just type in Treasurer's Manual and you'll get it that way. Free to download. Some of the things that it has is information on various aspects of the duties of a congregational treasurer, which can be a very complicated office. Church and school administration, a lot of points about that, and also taxes and ministers' resources. Pastors being self-employed, there's just a lot of loopholes and a lot of considerations they have to keep in mind. And that's just some of the things that are there. Again, Congregational Treasurer's Manual on the Synod's website. District website, we have 2 new people who been working on this for us, Peter and Stephanie Johnson, also at Faith in Penfield. They replaced Bob Forrester, who was with us forever. Bob did a great job. But Peter and Stephanie are young. They got a great young outlook on things. They're fresh. And they recently went through the whole website for us and reorganized it, streamlined it, cleaned it up. If you haven't seen it, take a look some night. Just go to www.lcmsed.org. It's in the yellow. And take a look and just poke around at the tabs and see what's there. Very, very nicely done. But here are some of the resources that I put up that I thought maybe would be of some interest to you. You can see those things, including if you look at the fourth bullet, job descriptions, generic and specific. It's just helpful sometimes in congregations to have a description when you have somebody who wants to volunteer for a position. You ask somebody, hey, would you be on the stewardship board, or would you be an usher, or would you be a counter, for the monies, the offerings? What's the next questions they're going to ask you? They're going to ask you, well, what does it involve? And the second question usually is, well, how long is it going to take me to do this every week or every month? How much time? Well, these job descriptions are just a way to kind of come up with some answers to those kind of questions along the way. Really, really helpful along the way. The second to the bottom bullet, I'm sorry, but this is where we are now in the church and in our society. But violence and sexual harassment guidelines, I'm going to be talking more about these things in a couple more slides. But you all need to be really wise and savvy about this. And within your congregation, what are just some of the behaviors and things that need to be in place that are preventative? You need to take the initiative, to make sure, as much as you can, to make sure that terrible things do not happen in your church. So just a few things. The last one, the background screening website. Again, you might not think this is important, but I would disagree. My opinion, if I was a pastor of a congregation now, I would really encourage the leaders to do a background check on everyone who has any kind of contact or work, especially with children. And that would be people under 18. You just should. And maybe it's somebody who's been a member of your church for a long time, and sure, you trust them, you do. But it would be just good to have a background check, just the same. If they're going to be working for Vacation Bible School or taking kids on a weekend trip to a camp or something like that, you should do that. Synod, we used 2 of them, and now really the second one. But for the longest time, we used Protect My Ministry, which was very affordable. You can have a pretty decent background check done for under $10, which really isn't bad. The new one is AAIM, and that is really thorough, but it's also very expensive. You're gonna you pay what you get for, and this is between $100 and $200 for that. Now, I wouldn't recommend that for a congregation because of its cost, but people who are new to the ministry, who come to me, wanted to go to the seminary, want to be a colloquy pastor, want to be a new SEM student, or things like that, we have to do this background check on them, each and every one of them. So it's just where we're at today, right? Where we're at.
Before you move on, I want to give you a plug. Those are all great resources. Whenever I was first elected president, I needed to, get some familiarity with what was going on. I looked, initially at our Constitution and then cross-referenced with, most of these documents. And I really saw an opportunity here to kind of, update our Constitution and have been working over the last year with some of our members to do that. So yeah, these are they're good resources. They're really relevant.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I do know you guys are working on your Constitution. I was told that, so that's really great. Yeah, if you don't have that, what do you go by? As a new president, you don't. So this will get you going. So good. If you need any help, just give us a call, okay? We do have a Constitution Review Committee for the district, and those gentlemen I would probably refer you to them, for some insight. We have an attorney who is really excellent with these things, so we can do that. I mean, you hear the word attorney, and all of a sudden, your hair turns up on the back of your neck, but these men are really God-fearing, wonderful men to work with, so very helpful. This is something that came to my attention a couple of weeks ago. If you have a school, particularly, or a large staff, and like I think some of you do have a early childhood center, for example. Once in a while, there are HR issues that come to the surface, and you wonder what are you going to do. Well, I'm just putting this out there to say that there is a support service by Concordia Plan Services. It's a subscription, but I'm told that that subscription really shrinks when you in comparison to a real fully blown controversy or problem that may arise. So again, you might something that would be you can experiment with. You can have a 6 month subscription, try it, if you will. But again, HR services, human resource services, and it's much larger. They assure us than just the workbook of synod or the handbook of synod. These are just some normal issues that kind of arise on staff when you have a lot of staff. So it's there. Call me if you need more information. I just put the word partnerships. To me, this has been a very positive part of my work in the district over the past 4 years, especially. A partnership is what? Well, you know what a partnership is, but partnerships in the church are congregations working together in order to achieve for mission and ministry what they cannot do alone. So what they cannot do alone. Now, Trinity Glen Savage, you technically have a partnership with Central City, with that church there, St. Peter and Paul. It's a very informal, loose relationship, and that's good. And many of them are. Some are very, very formal, written document of agreement between the two churches. So it's two churches working together, two or more, for ministry. And I kind of sense that this was a growing need and a future in our district, and I don't think we've even reached its potential at all. About 5 years ago, we had only 4 partnerships. Today, we have 15 in our district. So obviously, it's grown incredibly. And like I said, sometimes it's very, very simple. A simple handshake between presidents of the congregations, and they share the pastor and certain costs and so on. It just works well. If you are at all interested in this, I have my shtick, and I can come in and I can explain it to your leadership and your congregation and answer a lot of questions that they might have. But my rule of thumb is that to initiate partnerships does not come down top level. We're not in the Missouri Synod, we shouldn't be, but we're not a top down structure. We're just not that way. We don't have a bishop. You have a president, and it's different. And congregational autonomy is very, very critical. I believe in the inverted triangle or the grassroots, and so I try to encourage and educate the grassroots level, the leadership of churches and congregations, and steer them in areas of ministry. And it sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's just what happens. So I've been really happy about this. We also have some very interesting arrangements as well that I want to point out. We have 2 churches that have what you would call a satellite church. It's a kind of a partnership, but it's a little different. Hope Rochester is one. Hope is a very large church. It has quite a staff as well. But Hope Rochester recently received the property of Concordia Brockport, so the church and the property, which closed. And what they did was a donate and dissolve. I'm just throwing these out to put them in your heads, but it was a donate and dissolve. So you had a little church, Concordia Brockport, that said, we can't do it anymore. We just can't. And they talked with Hope Rochester, and they said, what we're going to donate everything we have to you, and then we're going to dissolve as a congregation, which worked out splendidly. It really did. And now what Hope did is that they closed down Concordia Brockport, made it go dark, if you will, for a time, 6 months to a year. And eventually the plan is to reopen it with a new brand, a new name that will have a new appeal to the community and to Concordia, not to Concordia, but to the University of Brockport as well. So that's kind of their plan. And then Hope also infuses into Concordia its style of worship and ministry as well. So it kind of continues that way. That's a satellite. It's kind of a takeover of another property that's really donated. St. Luke Cabot does the same with Faith Butler. Same story. Faith Butler dissolved, gave it over to St. Luke, and so on. We have, and here's one other thought for you. We have two churches that are more than two, but two of them that are east of Syracuse. One is in Canastota. It's called Redeemer. The other is in Utica. It's called Trinity. The Canastota Church, Redeemer, decided that they can't do it anymore. I mean, they were worshiping maybe 2 or 5 people on average, and it just wasn't working. And they said, we want to give it up. They have property. They had some investments. They had a parsonage. They have some property. They don't have a church. They were renting a church for quite some time. So what to do? Well, what they're doing is the same thing. They're going to give a legacy gift, if you will, over to Trinity Utica. So Trinity Utica, as it stands today, is this keeps moving. It's a moving target. It keeps changing. As of today, Trinity Utica will receive all those proceeds of Redeemer Canastota for its ministry to kind of continue with some stipulations along the way. So what I'm saying is that a closing of a congregation can also be an incredible blessing to ministry elsewhere. And we encourage that. I know congregations will sometimes give those things over to the district, and that's fine. We'll receive those. But if congregations can work in agreement like this, this is really splendid to really infuse resources to other churches as well. So my point is, if you can imagine where your church is right now and draw maybe a 30-minute circle around your 30-minute drive circle around your church, however far that will get you, are there any churches in that whole area that are struggling and really, really hurting and, barely making it? And if there are, I would encourage maybe, a contact with them, put some possibilities out for them for future ministry partnerships. Again, bring me in. I'll be happy to talk with the congregations about those things. So those are partnerships. Disaster relief. Disasters happen, as you know, and when they do happen, usually we get notified in the district office. Our first action after we find out the needs and things are set up in other districts to receive help is we'll put a message out to all of the email addresses that we have. We use a service called Constant Contact, and what we do is we would put together what we call an email blast. If there's an emergency, a tornado, a hurricane, a fire in another district, or even within our district, and we would send that. We have about 2,800 contacts, email contacts, so those people all get notified. And basically what we do is we would recommend that they would donate, if they wish to donate, to a certain fund that's set up by other districts or by the congregation, is what we would do. And that's kind of our first approach that we had. Another is, boy, for a long time, we had a pastor in Scranton. His name was Chris Bjornstad, and he had a real heart for disaster relief, to the point that he would organize teams of people to travel to areas where there was a disaster, and they would go and do service projects. And then he thought, well, what we need is a relief trailer. And so he asked the district, and we purchased a trailer. It's an enclosed trailer that gets pulled by a truck or by a large vehicle. And we filled that thing up, and it's still filled up. Chris left, but the trailer didn't. It's still with us. It's the property of the Eastern District. but it hasn't been used in about 5 years, 5 or 6 years. It literally is sitting in the parking lot of the district office. It's sitting there, loaded, filled with equipment. So, what I'm saying is, I'm kind of putting it out there that if any congregations have an individual who would like to be a district relief coordinator, or a team of people who would like to go, as a relief team to another area or to an area in our own district to help out in a disaster. We have the equipment. Let us know. I would be very happy to work on an arrangement with that person, that congregation, that we can move that trailer to the congregation. We'll care for it. We'll pay for it. We'll supply it. Any costs along the way, that's ours. We just like to get it closer to someone who would use it. So I would really kind of encourage it along the way. Recently, I have to also say there were some disasters. Just so you know, that your district sent thousands of dollars to the Mid-South district, which was Tennessee, when they had a number of tornadoes, and of course to the Southern district when they had a couple of hurricanes recently as well. One other one that you might not be aware of is that the Eastern District gave $30,000 to Concordia Bronxville. They had a relief fund set up for the staff. When Bronxville closed its doors, you had about 250 staff who were left just with nothing and what to do. Some were really in a bad position. Others were okay. But so this super fund was created by the East Coast districts, including the Eastern District. And to date, I got the report today from Barry Carolina, who's our representative. To date, there was about $350,000 raised for that fund. Again, Eastern District, we gave $30,000 over to that fund. And where did we get that $30,000? I'll tell you honestly, when Pioneer closed and the property was sold, money was returned to the Eastern District that we loaned to Pioneer over the years. And the board of directors said we'd like 10% of that money to go to Bronxville. So you can do your math of how much we received from Pioneer. It was 10% of $30,000, and that's where it went. So what a blessing. And I know a lot of individuals and congregations also helped along the way. So disasters happen as it does. I'm going to try to be brief with this. I can say a lot, and time is kind of running. Again, this is when I came out of seminary. Never did I think I would have to be kind of up on legal matters, and as a district president, kind of these things in congregations now. But you really can't hide from this. If you're a leader of a church, you need to have some sense of the legalities of what are kind of going on and the encroachments that are kind of happening along the way. These are two excellent organizations, the Lutheran Legal League and also Alliance of Defending Freedom. They have different areas of interest and concern. The Lutheran Legal League is run by an attorney of the Florida Georgia district, Rusty Huseman, and he has gathered Lutheran attorneys from across the country, and they pool their resources and write all kinds of materials that are helpful to congregations. Go to the website and see it yourself. Lutheran Legal League. They have a library of very, very helpful templates. These are policies, these are guidances, these are ideas that are legal to assist you legally, to set things up in your church. A tremendous help. So much that you're going to look at it and say, there's no way we can do this. But you know what I would recommend is, if you're a president, don't do this. That's my recommendation. If you're a head elder, don't do this. But there may be a person or two that you can appoint to look into these things, and those people can maybe find a policy. They can pluck one from this website, Lutheran Legal League website. They can pluck a policy like church usage policy or marriage policy and massage it, talking to the leaders, and eventually they report through the president of the congregation to the leaders, right? and then it's shared with the congregation, and then it's voted on, whatever that policy is, so that it's there. This isn't constitutional stuff. This isn't bylaw stuff. This is policy. So you take one or two at a time, and eventually kind of expand it out. Very, very helpful. Like I said, these are templates. These are boilerplate kind of documents that are adaptable for you. Very, very helpful along the way. So, I never realized how much legal matters, how many legal matters I would get involved with as district president for congregations, but they happen, and they happen often and oftener. Trust me, they do. So just something not to, it's not the highest priority for you, but I think it's something we really need to address pretty soon. Any questions on that before I kind of move along? Alliance of Defending Freedom, that's more like a U.S. Congress level material. They come and to the Council of Presidents of the Missouri Synod, and they were there in September and made a report, gave a report to us, and at other times. It's amazing all the things that are going on legally that really do affect the church and our congregations in the future. Briefly, LCEF, Lutheran Church Extension Fund. If you have a school, Rick asked me to put these up. If you do have a school and you're looking for financial assistance or loans or grants, call Rick at the district office, Rick Porter, and he can help you along the way. Getting close to the end here. There is one major event that we are looking forward to in the next couple of months, and that's at the bottom. I put it in yellow. That's kind of the target date. Our district convention will be at First Trinity. It's a church in Tonawanda. We are set to go. The committee's been working with me. We've got things really, really moving nicely. Leading up to that, you need to know one date, January 27, 2022. That is the deadline for the delegate and alternate information from your church. We need to have that in the district office. Who's going to be your delegate to the district convention, the lay delegate? Who will be the alternate as well? And then on that same day, if your congregation is making nominations for every office, from president, to board of director, to secretary, and so on, those nominations need to be in the district office on that day as well. We're going to be pretty hard on that second point, nominations. We're going to be pretty hard on that because we've had a lot of time since the convention was canceled, a lot of time to get nominations in. So we'll be looking for the dates when they do come in. So please act on those quickly. It's a great opportunity. Again, I'm not running for district president. The nomination will not be there. So you're going to be nominating for a new district president and vice presidents, and it just goes on and on and on. If you want to know where all those forms are, you can find them very, very simply on the district website. And just look at the 2022 convention, click it, and go from there. Just download those things, fill them in, and you can email them to us. That's how we're going to receive them this year. Now, these dates, February 8th, March 8th, April 12th, and May 10th, are not for everybody in your church, but they are for your delegate and for your alternate. I'm going to be having a series of Zooms on a different topic each month for them. And they're going to hear from me. They're going to, just like you did, going to invite them to these Zooms so that I can go through, several pieces of information, getting them ready for the convention. I think it's best for them just to kind of hear the things that to expect at the convention rather than to just suddenly sit there and suddenly things are kind of thrown at them. So there you go. Convention's coming up next year. Any final questions from anyone? I'm about to talk your ear off.
For the convention in June, is there going to be, previously we stayed at the college dorms.
Right.
What is going to be the situation there?
I'm going to let Lyle give you the good news. Lyle, you still with us? Maybe not. Okay, he signed off. We have 3 hotels that we've contracted with, and delegates, well, each person will have their own room. We're not going to share rooms because of COVID concerns. So you'll all have your own room. If your spouse comes with you, of course, your spouse can stay with you as well. So that's what we're doing. And it's all on within 5 minutes of the church, these 3 hotels.
Okay.
Anything else, anyone? You've been a great audience. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Lyle, I just gave the good news about the hotels for the convention. I took it from you. Sorry about that. You're muted to Lyle. Sorry. Bob Smith, you wanted to say something? Okay.
You
No,
know,
sir. Thank you. Just thank you.
I have one final thing. How is your son doing?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, he's home with me now. He's about 30 feet from where I'm sitting. He's doing extremely well. It's been such an answer to prayer. It was just a terrible ordeal we've been through for him, but God's been good. That's all I can say. God has been amazing and has brought him back to good health, good mind. Currently, he is disabled. So he's going to therapy to try to get some use, particularly on the right side of his body. His foot is what the problem is. He can't walk. So we're trying to get all that to be restored, and by God's good graces, get him back to working and those good things again. We are just absolutely blessed. Thanksgiving will have a different feel this year. Okay, I'm going to close with this final prayer, which is my favorite. Well, one of my favorite prayers, and then I'll let you be. O God, you have called your servants to ventures of which we cannot see the ending, by paths as yet untrodden, through perils unknown. Give us faith to go out with good courage, not knowing where we go, but only that your hand is leading us and your love supporting us. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. And here is the main entrance to the Eastern District office, which you own, by the way. This is the building that is owned by the congregations of the Eastern District, by the Eastern District itself. We don't pay any rent. We don't pay any lease on this. This we own. So it's a very, very fine, very good building. To get in there, if you ever come to Buffalo, come and see us. There's the parking lot in the back, plenty of parking spots, and just come right in the back door. We'll be happy to see you. Blessings to all of you. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I just appreciate your work, your leadership in your congregations. God bless.
God bless. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.